Hello and welcome to the G0OZS radio channel. Today's video covers the Soviet R123, so written like a letter P-123, known as Magnolia, as many Soviet sets were known after different kinds of flowers. R123 is a mobile VHF transceiver covering 20 to 52 megacycles. At about 25 to 30 watts. The Soviet R123 and R123M, the M stands for modernized, also known as Magnolia, are FM vehicle-mounted transceivers covering the range of 20 to 52 megahertz, which was the entire Eastern Bloc VHF low band, at an output power of 25 to 30 watts. They were installed mostly in armoured vehicles, tanks such as the T-64 and T-72, and in armoured personnel carriers and reconnaissance vehicles such as the BTR-60 and BRDM. The radios were used for communication between vehicles up to headquarters and for communication with dismounted infantry using portable transceivers that covered various subsets of the band. The radios could be used with a whip antenna on the tank, but they have a coaxial connector, so can be easily matched to just about any 50 or 75 ohm antenna. The radios entered service in the mid-1960s and continued in widespread use until the end of the Cold War and somewhat beyond in countries that received Soviet military vehicles as exports. Mine came from Poland in 2017 and worked straight out of the box. So I'm very pleased with it. I've used it mostly for local FM nets on 10 meters, but it certainly works well for receiving DX on 10 FM. I think it's possibly a little wide, and of course it doesn't do split frequencies needed for 10 meter repeaters, so I've not yet managed to work any DX with it. It is a hybrid design. All of the major functioning parts are vacuum tube technology, a mixture of miniature and standard glass envelope valves. The power supply and some small parts of the audio circuitry are transistorized using germanium transistors. I'm wearing the audio equipment that came with my set, which is a Soviet tank helmet. There is a laryngophone or throat microphone under my chin, which is held in place by the ear flaps. If you don't buckle those up, it doesn't work very well, as I've found. That is connected to through a snatch connector to a microphone PTT unit, not that unlike the ones for the British Klansman sets. The bottom piece is the intercom PTT for the tank, and I don't have the R124 intercom unit that is the partner to this set. The top part is the radio PTT, and I've connected the radio to a dummy load, and you will hear the power supply wailing when I press it. And possibly I hear the side tone. You probably won't on the recording. So, turning to the radio itself. Turning now to the radio itself, the power supply is a transistorized unit called the B26. It takes DC power in on two screw terminals, one for earth, one for the actual 24 volt power that has an insulated knob, and there is a multi-pin, I think from memory 12-pin output connector through an armoured cable to the radio itself, with fuses for the main power supplies. There are quite a lot of different voltages to the set, including 600, 250 volts needed for transmit, 600. There are two input fuses in the middle. There's a 600 volt fuse, for the output, and a 28 volt input fuse, and then a 150 volt fuse at the bottom. And I'll just hover over the label. My radio is, I think, of Polish origin, judging by the writing, but some of the labels are in Cyrillic, some of them are in a Slavic alphabet. So now, trying to move across the radio, on the extreme right hand side we have an indicator when it is using the memory channels, a panel meter which is used for tuning and to check the various supply voltages, and a band indicator. So one is the low band, 20 to 30 something megacycles, two is the high band, 30 something to 52 megacycles. The bottom knob here is the volume control, and we'll see again it has its factory label which is in Russian, but all of the control labels are in the language of the country of use. They were even made with English labels for export to the Middle East. The band switch is the next thing we see moving across slightly to the left at the bottom. That has free tuning on the two bottom positions on each band, and it has two memory positions on each band, and we'll come back to the memory in a few minutes. And then the top part is the antenna tuner. The antenna tuner is a multi-turn control. The red collar locks it in place. There is a handle that you can pop out or flip out to actually tune with, and there is a lamp which measures the antenna current in real time and is actually much more convenient for tuning than the meter. The power supply squeals on transmit, so you also can rely on the note of the power supply as a proxy for the antenna current, which is nearly as good as the lamp in my opinion. And then moving a little further across, we have the main tuning display, which you can only really see in the dark. It's a backlit projection display with two scales for the higher and lower band. Because of the internal design of the set, one scale reads in the opposite direction to the other. And it has markings at 100 kilohertz and 50 kilohertz intervals, and it is fairly easy to net to a station. There are also 4 calibration marks, 2 on each band, where you can align it to a crystal calibrator, use it, and that screw on the left of the display is used to align the scale to the calibrator. The cover in the middle of the set is the cover for the tuning, mechanical tuning control. So if we open that, you'll see that there are 4 screws. When the screws are aligned with the circle, so going round it rather than across it, the memory is set. If you turn them a quarter turn to be across the circle, then the settings of the tuning controls are captured in, you can adjust the antenna tuner and the frequency tuning, get the radio to work on the frequency of your choice, and then turn while the memory switch is in the right position, and you can then rotate the screw a quarter turn anti-clockwise back in line like you see it now, and that will store the settings of the frequency dial or frequency control and the antenna tuning control. As far as I can understand, that is done by preset variable resistors, and it uses a servo mechanism and motors to drive the controls to the remembered position when you select one of the memories. Moving now further to the left, we have a transmit or receiver or transceiver or receive only switch. So what is shown as simplex is the transmit receive enable, NASLOK, or however it is pronounced in Polish, is receive only. And then the main tuning control with a calibration adjustment underneath it is the knob underneath, and that is linked to the dial that I will have to turn off the lights and record later. Below that you have the microphone connector or the headset connector, and on the extreme left of the set you have the power input connector connected to the from the armoured cable. There are 3 switches. The rightmost is the power control, so that is power. That turns on and off the calibrator. The rightmost switch controls the light for the frequency dial. The meter switch selects the various voltages on this side only on present on transmit, on this side on receive, and there are 2 scales for antenna current. Normally you set it up on antenna current 1, change to less sensitive, so that you can peak it higher, and then the control at the extreme top left is the squelch control, which somewhat works. What I have found is if you have large aerials for 10 FM, the band noise is sufficient to open the squelch in any position. Right now, connected to a dummy load, it's working fine. So next we're going to have a look at the memory in operation. Now we're going to have a look at the memory. I've opened the cover of the memory system so you can see it. What I'm going to do is change the master switch from free tuning on band 1 to a memory position number 1. I'm going to also reduce the backlighting a bit so we can see the indicator lamps. So when I turn the dial, you'll see none of the indicator lamps are lit at the moment. When I turn the dial, which is quite hard work, you'll see that the controls were turning. I was focused on the antenna tuner. You will also, if I turn to another memory channel, see the frequency control turning and the memory disk turning. So it's all rather spooky. It's all rather spooky, but it does work, and the resetting accuracy is very, very good. And what you'll see now as well, if I change, because I've now selected memory number 2, that the lamp number 2 is lit. So normally, I guess the original owners would have set up the frequencies of the day ahead of time, and they could then just turn the memory switch to get where they wanted to go without any great amount of adjustment. And while I've got the lights off, you can now see the tuning dial, and if I go back to number 1, you'll see that zooming past until it resets, and that one is set at about 29.15. We'll go back to number 2, let it zoom around. And try to get it to show the numbers in the top row. For some reason this one doesn't do very well on the top row. It's now on 29.7, and we'll switch it back to number 1. And we're exactly back where we were again at 29. Actually, the line is at 29.15, sort of between 29. .2 and although you can't see it very well, 29.1. Now we're going to cover how to operate the set. So first thing we have to do is to set the frequency, or well, first of all set it to free tuning on the band of our choice. So we want to be on 29 for 10 FM. Check that it's on the right band, set the frequency using the frequency dial, and I don't think you can really see it with enough light to get a picture of the rest of the set, but that is on about 29.150 connected to the dummy load. And then the next stage is to key the transmitter. You'll probably not see a lot of light in the tuning LED or tuning lamp at this point. You'll not see a lot of power coming out. So what we now have to do, and I'm going to have to change my grip, so there'll be a short break and I'll start recording again, so that I can use both hands, and we will adjust the antenna tuner to get a louder whine, a nice pink illumination or reddish pink illumination in the lamp, and plenty of power in the meter. So stand by 1. Okay, so now we're transmitting again. So what I'm going to do is turn the dial. You'll hear the pitch of the tone increase. You'll see the light glow, and we're now, if I can deal with the reflections, at about max, getting close to maximum power. It is quite touchy. So that's it now, set up to what I know is the maximum power. The SWR is very reasonable, and we have just under 30 watts coming out of FM coming out of the radio. So that's the basic operating technique for the radio. There are a couple of other things to look at before we finish. The check meter is for all of the supply voltages, receive down this side, transmit down this side, and these are the 2 antenna current settings at the top. So if we turn to look at the meter, I'll just read off the numbers from here, so because I can't film both of them at a sufficient scale. So there's the meter. So we're now looking at 2 volts, 6.3 volts and 150 volts. In every case, the good reading is somewhere in the black part of the meter scale. So I'll go back to where I normally leave it on antenna current. And finally, to demonstrate the squelch and volume controls. The squelch control you turn anti-clockwise to open, and hopefully you can hear the hiss from the headphones. And the volume control at bottom right is turn clockwise to make louder, turn anti-clockwise to make quieter. And finally, a quick look at the headgear. So the headgear is kind of like a bicycle helmet with ridges on the top to protect the operator from banging their head on the inside of the vehicle. There's two earphones inside, two throat microphone elements that strap under your chin. They seem to work best at the point where your neck sort of turns to go under your chin, so that the joint between neck and chin. And those are connected with a leather strap, and the leather strap has a kind of a metal clamp on it that you slide up to lock it. So you squeeze the I'm not doing very well, but you basically push it up the straps until it is tight. You will then find it won't go back down, and if you haven't met one of these before, the trick to releasing it is to press in on the buttons either side, at which point you can then pull it back down very easily. I had a small moment of panic the first time I tried this because I didn't know that and couldn't get it off.
I didn't quite catch the call sign. Name is Ian, this side, India Alpha November, and I'm located in the city of Hull, northeast coast of England. Back to you. India Charlie Bravo from Mike 0 Mike Charlie Charlie. Yes, no problem. I'll check up on QR then, but I did have a contact there, but there is from Mike 0 Mike Charlie Delta from the northeast coast, name and side Trev. Tango Romeo Echo Victor, go ahead. Okay, no problem. I got M0 MCD. So I think I've spoken. Sierra Quebec to Hotel Echo November. Jordi. My name is Jordi. Juliet Oscar Romeo Delta India. Repeat, Juliet Oscar Romeo Delta India. Okay, it's George in English. Okay, back to you, Dennis. Okay. It's a monoband, pero coupled, very pants, QSL. And your signal is 960 dBs, no QSB. infinite signal al final de todo, okay? 73 Dennis.
Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do click subscribe if you want to see the next one, when and where it turns up. And 73s for now from G0 OZS.